Imagine a vault buried 2 floors beneath the streets of a European city. Above it, the world's diamond capital hums along. Traders in tailored suits hurry between offices, briefcases handcuffed to their wrists, security cameras blinking from every corner. The vault itself is wrapped in 10 separate layers of protection. Combination locks with millions of possibilities, seismic sensors that feel the slightest vibration, Doppler radar, infrared heat detectors, and a magnetic field so sensitive that opening the door should have been impossible without triggering an alarm. This was the Antwerp Diamond Center in Belgium, long considered one of the most secure places on Earth. And yet, on a cold February weekend in 2003, that fortress was quietly defeated. When the staff arrived Monday morning, the vault door stood open. Safe deposit boxes lay twisted and empty on the floor like broken teeth. Diamonds, gold, rare jewelry, more than $100 million worth, had vanished without a single shot fired, without a broken lock, and without a clear trace of how anyone had gotten inside. It would be called the heist of the century. To understand how such an impossible crime could happen, you have to start a few years earlier, in Italy, with a small-time thief who thought he'd seen it all. Leonardo Notarbartolo was a seasoned operator from Turin, a man who moved easily between the world of legitimate diamond trading and the shadows of organized crime. By the late 1990s, he had built a reputation among thieves and merchants alike. Clever, disciplined, and patient. He was part of a loose group of Italian specialists known as La Scuola di Torino, the School of Turin, lockpickers, safecrackers, and forgers who treated theft like a craft. When Antwerp's shining diamond district beckoned, Leonardo didn't arrive like a burglar. He arrived like a businessman. He rented an office in the Diamond Center, registered as a legitimate dealer, and for 2 years he played his role. He attended meetings, shook hands, brought small stones to market, and, most importantly, learned the rhythm of the building. When guards changed shifts, who had access to the vault, which doors stayed locked, and which, after midnight, didn't. Each day was reconnaissance wrapped inside routine. At some point, the idea hardened into a plan. The target was not a single safe, but the heart of the entire district, the underground vault where hundreds of traders stored their goods. The place everyone believed was unbreakable. Leonardo gathered his team, each man chosen for a specific talent. There was Speedy, a nervous childhood friend but loyal driver. There was a hulking jack-of-all-trades nicknamed the Monster, expert mechanic, electrician, and muscle. There was the Genius, a quiet engineer who understood alarm systems better than the people who built them. And then there was the King of Keys, a legendary lock specialist who could conjure a working copy from the briefest glimpse. The danger of this job wasn't in guns or guards. It was in the mathematics of failure. 10 separate security systems meant 10 separate chances to trip an alarm. And any mistake, one false move, one broken sensor, would trap them 2 floors underground with only one exit and a police unit stationed a few hundred meters away. In the world of professional thieves, that's as close as it gets to a suicide mission. The Genius began by studying the vault's electronic defenses. An internal security camera watched the corridor outside the vault door. A heat and motion sensor covered the entrance. Inside the vault, infrared detectors watched for body heat. Light sensors registered any flicker in the dark. And the magnetic field on the door itself was designed so that even a millimeter of separation between plates would scream alarm to the police. Every line of defense assumed one thing: that any intruder would fight the system head-on. The genius proposed something else. What if they could convince the entire system that nothing was happening at all? The preparation was painstaking. Leonardo hid a miniature camera near the vault entrance, disguised in a piece of hardware above the door. For weeks, it quietly recorded the guard turning the combination dial. Night after night, the crew collected the images, analyzing the tiny movements of the guard's hand until the numbers emerged. At the same time, the King of Keys practiced with a replica lock, created from a quick, risky moment when Leonardo borrowed the real key and pressed it into molding clay in his pocket. With a working duplicate in hand and the combination decoded, they had the first two pieces of the puzzle. But the sensors still stood in their way. The heat detector in the corridor could be blinded, they believed, with something as ordinary as hairspray, coating its lens in a thin mist that would dull its ability to see. The magnetic field on the vault door could be tricked by carefully loosening the screws that held the plates in place days before the heist, sliding a sliver of aluminum between them and securing everything with tape so that the magnet stayed closed even when the door swung open. Inside the vault, they would carry a lightweight shield of foam or polystyrene, stepping behind it as they passed the infrared sensor so that the device would register only cold, empty air. None of it was guaranteed. Each trick was a bet with prison as the stake. February 15th, 2003. Antwerp's Diamond District powered down for the weekend. The last traders left, the armored doors upstairs locked, and the security staff settled into the predictable routine of a quiet Saturday night. In a nondescript car not far away, 4 men waited for the clock to slide past midnight. One carried a bag stuffed with tools most people could buy at a hardware store. The danger of the job was in the choreography, not in the equipment. They entered the building like they had done 100 times before, using Leonardo's tenant badge. Cameras saw nothing unusual. The same face, the same hallway, the same door opening to the corridor. Downstairs, in the dim light outside the vault, the plan unfolded in absolute silence. Hairspray clouded the sensor's eye. The duplicate key slid into the lock. The stolen combination turned the dial. Leonardo's hand hovered, then pulled the massive handle. The vault door swung heavy and slow, and nothing, no siren, no flashing light, broke the quiet. Inside, the air was cold and stale. The team moved quickly. A shield went up in front of the infrared detector, taped into place. A small piece of tape covered the light sensor, allowing them to turn on their flashlights for short, surgical bursts. The monster unpacked a homemade drill and a hand-cranked device engineered to crack open safe deposit boxes without touching the walls around them. One by one, metal doors yielded, revealing envelopes, velvet pouches, sealed packets of stones, stacks of foreign banknotes. They filled duffel bags with whatever they could reach: polished diamonds, rough stones, gold bars, jewelry with histories longer than any of the men stealing them. Above them, Antwerp slept. Police patrols rolled past the district's fortified streets, unaware that deep below, its most guarded room was being emptied. That imbalance, the calm of the world outside against the frantic precision underground, is what made this heist so perilous. There was no escape route carved into multiple exits, no hostages to bargain with, no public chaos to hide within. If even a single component of the vault's elaborate defense woke up, the thieves would find themselves trapped in a concrete box with millions of dollars in stolen property and nowhere to run. For roughly 2 hours they worked. Then, as carefully as they had entered, they reversed the process. The tape came off the light sensor. The shield dropped from the infrared detector. The improvised aluminum plate and magnets were removed, The screws retightened. The vault door closed with a dull thud, looking as untouched as it had when they arrived. They carried the bulging bags up the stairs, through the quiet halls and out into the night. One more anonymous car rolling away from the Diamond District. By the time the alarm finally revealed something was wrong, when staff opened the vault Monday morning, the thieves were already back across the border. But the most dangerous heist in the world was almost undone by something embarrassingly human: panic. On the drive back toward Italy, Leonardo stopped near a stretch of woodland off the highway to burn a bag of incriminating trash: gloves, tape, empty jewel bags, anything that could tie them to Antwerp. Instead of waiting, Speedy lost his nerve. He ripped open the bag and scattered its contents on the ground, leaving behind a trail of evidence that the flames never touched. A local landowner later found the mess, noticed it was no ordinary litter, and called the police. Inside were receipts, security system diagrams, and famously, the remnants of a salami sandwich bearing Leonardo's DNA. Investigators followed the breadcrumbs back to Turin. Leonardo was arrested when he calmly returned to Antwerp days later, testing whether the city still felt safe. Belgian courts convicted him and several accomplices. Others were never caught. And at least one key specialist, the so-called King of Keys, has never been definitively identified. Most of the diamonds, even today, are still missing, likely broken up and laundered through the very global trade they once moved through legally. In the end, what made this heist so dangerous was not just its scale or its sophistication, but what it revealed: that the perfect vault is an illusion. Systems built to be impregnable are still guarded by people, and people can be studied, fooled, and outweighted. For 2 years, a patient thief turned one of the safest buildings in the world into his own blueprint for the ultimate crime. And for one long weekend in February, that blueprint worked almost perfectly. The vault beneath Antwerp has since been upgraded. The Diamond District has tightened its procedures and rewritten its security rules. But somewhere out there, stones that once lay quietly in numbered boxes still sparkle on fingers and in necklaces, their owners unaware that they were born from one of the most daring, high-risk robberies the world has ever seen. Whether you call it genius or madness, one thing is certain. For a few silent hours under the streets of Belgium, danger did not wear a mask or carry a gun. It wore a businessman's suit, a tenant badge, and the confidence to walk into a fortress and convince every alarm inside that nothing was happening at all.